Look inside the mirror, but I don't know who I see. Smoking another cigarette, a smile holds back the tears.
So what made you ultimately decide to tell your story to your co-writer Paul Miles for Horseshoes and Hand Grenades?
Well, I had started writing the book, God, 2002, 2003. My manager actually was laughing. I was going through my second divorce, just a bunch of crazy shit happening, and he was laughing at me. He goes, "Crab, you should write a book, man. Like some of the shit that you've been through." And he made a joke about it. Like he goes, "Any lesser man would have offed himself years ago, you know." And I didn't, I was like, whatever. And this guy reached out to me about doing a book, and I started. So I kind of put it to bed. And then the other thing, if I may be frank, was the fact that, I started seeing, there was books on Nirvana, books on Soundgarden, books on Aerosmith, solo books by each member of Aerosmith, and then Kiss, and, and then the roadies of Kiss. And I was just like, oh God, like if I do a book now, I'm totally it's going to be perceived as me jumping on a bandwagon. And I wanted nothing to do with it. 2019, I went down to Australia. I did 4 or 5 shows performing the Live 94 album in its entirety. And I met Paul Miles again. I've known Paul for 20 years. And we were just kind of sitting, even with the guys in my band, we were sitting outside at a cafe having a coffee, and they were asking me stories about Mick, Tommy, and Nikki, and the Scream. And so I was telling these stories, and Paul just kind of pulled me aside, and he goes, "Crab, look, I think you should do a book." He goes, "For the most part, you've been kind of this your whole life, even though you did a couple of chapters in the dirt. You're nobody knows a lot about you." He goes, "You've been kind of this enigma that pops out of the woodwork and says, 'Oh, check out my new album,' and then you disappear." And he goes, "I think there are more fans out there than you think, and I think that they would love to hear your story." So I caved, and we sat down over the course of, probably a year of COVID, and we sat down and we worked this book up and wrote it. And I think Paul did an amazing job translating my story and making it sound like me talking. But we also went through an editing process of him starting the book, sending me chapters. I re-edited, took things out, put things in, send it back, and then we just compiled the entire book, and we sent it to Rarebird. They loved it, and here it is, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades.
I'm reading your formative years. I read about your formative years, and they were pretty dark stories. I mean, you talk about your Uncle Jack and what he did to your siblings, and how he served little to no jail time for what he did, and then you got the Callinger murders. You had some pretty painful memories. Was it tough to bring back when you wrote this book? I mean, or did you just have them harnessed inside this whole time? And did it feel good to break out?
Yeah, it was actually. It was actually very cleansing for me to do this book and reread it again. I was looking at things like, some of my divorces, or whether it's with women or the bands.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of positive moments in the book, but there was a lot of dark things too. And I was kind of living it again. And I'll be honest with you, there was times where I was reading my own story and I had to go stop and make a cup of tea or get away from it for a minute, I'm like, holy fuck, like
Right.
I'm not in my stomach thinking about this. But it was actually very good to put it down on paper, get rid of it, and kind of move on. I mean, it was cool. So I think some of the things, like you were saying, the calendar thing, that was just, it was dark. It was a weird time. But I think the more personal things, like watching my grandmother die of alcoholism, was brutal. And then going through some of the, dude, we're human, and I think people forget that about musicians. Like, and I laugh. I'm a little crude about it, but I go, we all still have to take our pants off to take a shit.
Yeah.
So I think people do forget that we're human. So when you have something like a marriage not working out or walking away from your family, it's really brutal. And so I was reliving a lot of that stuff. And I have to be honest, there was a couple times where I went, I got to get away from this for a minute. But
yeah. No, I can imagine.
Honest.
No, I can imagine. That's why I asked that. I mean, but you also, you actually, after reading that section about your Uncle Jack, you had to go back and reread the lyrics of Uncle Jack from the Motley Crue record. And, that was powerful when the song came out. I remember that song. I love that song. And, but you could feel your pain. But then reading the lyrics and the book, you could feel your pain all over again.
Yeah, it was definitely weird, man. I remember that phone call from my mother like it was yesterday, because we had started the record. 20 years had passed.
Yeah,
and she called me and told me the whole story about my Uncle Jack again, and these two little boys and the whole situation. And I was so fucking angry again. And we had this riff, and we were just calling it Evil D.
Okay.
Because we didn't have any lyrics for it. And the next day I went in and I got into the van and we were driving to the studio, and I told all the guys about what my mother had told me the night before. And I said, I think I have a subject matter for this song. And when I told them, they were like, yes, fuck yes.
Yeah.
And initially the song was called The Ballad of Jack Hayes. And the record label, they were like, dude, you can't mention him by name. That's a loss that happened. Regardless of whether he was guilty or not, you can't throw anybody under the bus like that. I didn't give a shit, but we eventually caved and we just called it Uncle Jack. The funny thing is, a lot of people think it's about Jack Daniels.
Right.
So it's weird. I wanted to clear that up as well, what the song is about. And it's really weird in my adult years, and like since that episode,
right,
and now song, and even still today, you don't realize how many people this happens to.
Sure.
Like, so it's a little more prevalent than people realize. So we wanted to talk about it.
So back then, I was a pretty big fan of actually the Scream, and I turned all my friends onto Let It Scream. But then when it came out, and then you ended up joining Motley Crue, and that was like a pretty awesome time for me as a fan. But you had some pretty big shoes to fill. What was the decision process like to leave the Scream after they just put out this new record, and then you leave, and then you join one of the biggest rock bands in hard rock?
It was hard, dude. Like, I love the Scream. The Scream was my first, and that's the thing I tell everybody, like, you can do whatever you want. You can have sex with 1 million women. You're always going to remember your first.
It's true.
That was the Scream to me.
Okay.
But the thing was, you got to remember, my mom was just diagnosed with cancer.
Right.
My son was just diagnosed with diabetes. Even during the Scream, as much success as we were garnering, it was still a work in progress. So I was, 2 kids, me, my wife, 2 dogs, living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Hollywood. We were scrimping. So when I got offered the gig, even the guys in my band are like, dude, you gotta do this. This is gonna elevate you to a whole different level. And more importantly, you're gonna be able to totally take care of everybody in your family. And it was a tough decision, and it was a long decision because it literally took 8 months to negotiate that whole thing, get out of one band and into another. But I did it. I'm not a person with any regrets about anything.
Okay.
And without sounding cliched or weird or whatever, I truly believe the universe, and the fact that, again, my mother had just been diagnosed with cancer, my son with diabetes. I needed to make money, and I needed to make a lot of it. And then it was funny because I was able to take care of my entire family through that issue. And then it was weird. My mom passed away, and literally like 2 months later, Motley said, "Hey, we're bringing Vince back." So I kind of look at it like, love the record or hate the record, the universe gave John Corabi something that he needed at that moment of his life.
Right.
And so I have no regrets about anything.
Well, that actually brings me to my next question. I just told you, I just explained to you that like that record was like one of my favorites of all time because of the heaviness and your gritty vocals and your songwriting. But I thought I read somewhere that you decided to leave because you felt that Vince should have been fronting the band, not that they were bringing him back.
No, there was a lot of shit going out at the time. Honestly, they came to me and they said, look, and again, you have to remember, prior to me joining the band, Motley had just re-signed with Elektra for
Right.
$30 million. And, so they do that. And 6 months later, they're calling Elektra and they're going, hey, by the way, we got this new guy, Vince is out. And one of the other things that a lot of people said was, well, I think the record would have done way better if it was called anything but Motley.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And you got to remember too, with that, like, you had lawyers, managers, agents, the record label, everybody had something invested in the words Motley Crue. So they were like, all right, so let me get this right. We just gave you $30 million. You're going to replace your singer. And now you want to replace the name as well, the brand. And, so it was just this weird, perfect storm of, everything negative at the time,
Yeah.
It's like, we did the best that we could. And again, like I said, I have no regrets. We did everything that we could do to do the best record, to go out and give fans the best show possible. I know even at one point, Tommy and Nikki didn't even want to do any of their old music. And I'm like, nah, dude, you gotta we gotta play Shout at the Devil.
Right.
We got this stuff. And, and I get it. The fans are like, oh, Corabi sounds good on his stuff, but the old stuff, he sounds like shit. Whatever. I was just trying to give everybody a great show, give them some stuff, give them a little old, little new, little borrowed, little blue,
Right.
all it. And, but it was just the perfect storm of negative shit.
Right. Right.
But it makes for a good print in the book.
Yeah, it's sure. So you go from there, you go from that, then you start this another incredible band with Bruce Kulick called Union, which I was also a big fan of. If you're noticing this trend here, I'm a big John Corabi fan. So
I appreciate it, brother.
then you put out this Union record. Then you put out this Motley Crue record and a great Scream record. but they didn't get the full respect that it deserved. When does John Corabi get what he deserves for the brilliant songwriting and brilliant pieces of work that he's put out?
I don't know if it'll ever come, dude. You know, it's like, and I'm kind of okay with it now. Like,
Okay.
trust, I've literally sat there sometimes and went, why is my bank account not like Nikki Sixx's or like Steven Tyler's?
Right.
Why is it that I'm, you know, still struggling to write, or still, you know, struggling to get my new music out there? What am I doing wrong? And then I just kind of got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Do the best you can do. Write the best song you can. Do the best vocal you can. Produce it the best and get it out there. And the one thing that people forget is, regardless of what you do in the entertainment industry, you can be talented, but the main ingredient to everything is luck and timing. But, you know, I've done 14 or 15 records. I'm still putting out new music, and I still believe every time I put a new song out that this one's the one.
Right.
So I'm as optimistic as I can be, you know, and then I just keep my fingers crossed and hope it, you know, hope it catches. And I was even saying, like, the luck timing thing. You know, I've released a couple of new songs, a song called Casibella,
Right.
and Your Own Worst Enemy. When I say timing or luck, if somebody like Brad Pitt or somebody, one of those A-list actors, heard that song and went, or like Casibella, for example, went, oh my God, I'm doing this love movie, this funny romance. I think this song would be great in this song. It turns everything around.
Right.
One song, that's all you need. And if you've been following it, look at what's happening right now with that artist Kate Bush.
Oh yeah, with Stranger Things, right?
Right. That song is 18 years old.
Yeah.
And it was like a song that was just kind of looked over. And because of Stranger Things, a huge TV series on Netflix, it's actually blown up again. The point where it's like number one everywhere.
Sure.
That's all you need, is that one little piece of luck to just kind of turn things around, and then I'm laughing. You know what I mean?
Is there a dream collaboration that for John Corabi? Is there someone you'd like to collaborate with that you never have?
I would love to work with, you know, I would love to write a song with Jimmy Page. I'd love to write a song with Paul McCartney.
Wow. Okay.
Song with Steven Tyler. You know, it's funny, you were talking about Casibella. Like, I'm a massive fan of the Beatles. You wouldn't maybe know it from some of the past music I've done, but I've always been a huge fan of the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also been a massive fan of Queen. I saw Queen 5 times with Freddie.
Wow.
And my 2 favorite songs ever, Penny Lane by the Beatles and Killer Queen by Queen.
Wow.
So, not that Casibella sounds like those,
No.
but it's kind of vibe.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what I was going for. I said, you know what? Fuck it. I've always wanted to write a song like or like Penny Lane or Killer Queen. I'm going to do it. So we did it.
Well, you pulled it off, because I picked up on it right away within the first few notes. I mean, so the reason why I asked about the collaborations was because, you know, you also played with the Dead Daisies, another great band that I followed. And, you know, you played with them for quite a while, and you played with some amazing musicians throughout your career. And you said you have no regrets within 30 years of playing music professionally. And that's why I asked about the collaborations, because you know, who else can you collaborate with?
Well, and I think it's just like, you know, I could sit down and write a song on my own. And the thing that I'm probably more excited about than anything is that I'm actually doing all the lead guitar work on this new music. So now I'm interpreting how I want to hear these solos. But that's what but there's, in most cases, and I love working with Marty. Marty will suggest things to me, and it's like this light bulb goes off, and I go, it's something so simple, and in a million years, I would have never thought about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that Marty brought to my attention was,
I'm sorry, who's Marty again? Because I want to, just in case I want
Marty Ferguson. He produced a couple Dead Daisies records.
Oh, okay.
He wrote Jaded with Steven Tyler.
Right.
I mean, awesome producer, awesome songwriter. But he actually said to me one time, we were working on lyrics, and he goes, dude, you're too literal. That's not how you talk. And he was making fun of me the way, you know, my Philly accent, and and we have this code word which means soul.
Right.
Give it some soul. And he'll say, be a little Amos, brother. Put a little Amos on it.
Okay.
And so it's like he's basically saying to me, give it a little soul. Don't be so literal with the lyrics. You know, don't say, you know, your mother's going to come. Say, yo, mama's going to come. You know what I mean?
That's cool, yeah.
Put a little of that stank on it. And so he's, you know, he looks at things, and I really appreciate his input, because just having that, oh shit, I never even thought of that. Okay, let me try it. And we tried some things, like I said, didn't work. And then there's other things where it's like, oh my God, it was simple. It was right in front of me the whole time, and I just didn't say it because I'm so locked into the initial idea.
Sure.
So I do like contributing and writing and collaborating with other people. Just gives you another viewpoint.